My name is Christina R. Tuttle. I'm 32 years old, and the moment that ended, my relationship didn't start with shouting or betrayal or some dramatic confession. It started with a joke. At least that's what everyone else called it. We were at a rooftop bar downtown, the kind of place with overpriced cocktails, string lights hanging above the tables, and music just loud enough that people lean closer to hear each other. Liam's friends were there, a couple of his co-workers, the usual circle I had spent 2 years trying to blend into. I stood beside him with my arm loosely around his waist, thinking the night was going fine. Then someone brought up his ex-girlfriend. Not seriously, just one of those half-drunk remember when conversations that bounce around groups when the drinks start stacking up. One of his friends grinned and said, "Be honest, Liam. If your ex texted you right now, what would you do?" He didn't even hesitate. "If my ex texted me right now," Liam said loudly, smiling, "I'd drop Christina instantly." He nodded toward me like I was a prop in the punchline. Everyone laughed. I laughed too. That part still bothers me sometimes. I smiled, lifted my drink, played along like it was harmless, like my stomach hadn't just tightened in that quiet way it does when something hits deeper than you expected. For context, we had been together 2 years, living together for 8 months. I paid most of the rent because Liam was figuring things out. I listened to his career frustrations, his endless comparisons to people doing better than us, his complaints about opportunities that never seemed to materialize. He liked to describe himself as brutally honest. I had learned that was usually his excuse for being cruel. Someone at the table whistled. "Damn savage." Liam shrugged. "What? I'm just saying, she knows where she stands." I nodded again, still smiling, still pretending it was funny. Inside, something went quiet. Then his phone buzzed. He glanced down at the screen, and for half a second his smile flickered. Then he laughed again. "Oh, wow," he said, holding up the phone. "Christina's company just posted about her promotion." People turned toward me immediately. "Wait, you got promoted?" I hadn't even seen the post yet. Liam looked at me with a smirk. "Guess you're not as replaceable as I thought." More laughter. I didn't check my phone. I didn't respond. I finished my drink, placed the glass carefully on the table, and stepped away while everyone was distracted. I left without saying goodbye. Because sometimes silence doesn't argue. It concludes. I didn't go far that night. Just down the street until the music faded into traffic noise and the cold air finally settled the tightness in my chest. That's when I checked my phone. The promotion announcement was everywhere. My company's LinkedIn page had posted a photo from a conference months earlier, my name under it, my new title, a paragraph about leadership and long-term strategy. Comments from coworkers, mentors, my boss. "Congratulations. Well deserved. Proud of you." I stared at it longer than I should have. Not because of the promotion. I already knew it was coming. Because of the timing. The irony felt deliberate, even though I knew it wasn't. I got home late. Liam was already there, stretched out on the couch, scrolling through his phone like the night had been completely normal. "Hey," he said without looking up. "Why'd you disappear?" "I left," I said. He smirked. "Don't be dramatic. Everyone was having fun." I didn't answer. I set my keys down, took off my jacket, and walked into the kitchen. A minute later, he followed, leaning against the counter, with that expression he always wore when he expected to be entertained. "You okay?" he asked, fake concern layered over irritation. "You got really quiet after the joke." "It wasn't a joke," I said. He laughed. "Oh my God, you're still on that. Relax. You know I didn't mean it like that." I looked at him, really looked. The ease with which he dismissed it. The way he expected me to swallow the humiliation and move on like I always did. "You said you'd drop me instantly," I said. "In front of everyone." He rolled his eyes. People exaggerate. Besides, my ex would never text me." "Right," I said. "And even if she did, it wouldn't mean anything. You're being insecure." There it was. The word he used whenever I reacted to disrespect. Insecure. He waved his phone in the air. "See? Nothing." I nodded. Yeah, that seemed to satisfy him. He went back to the couch, already bored of the conversation. That night I lay awake beside him, replaying the laughter from the bar, the way nobody questioned it, the way I smiled to make it easier for everyone else. And I realized something. He hadn't embarrassed me. He had revealed himself. And once you see that clearly, you stop needing to explain why you're pulling away. You just do. The morning after the bar felt strangely normal. Liam woke up before me, which was unusual, and by the time I walked into the kitchen, he was already sitting at the table with his laptop open and coffee half finished. My phone buzzed as I reached for the kettle. A message from him. "Guess I'm dating a big shot now." Attached was the promotion post from my company's LinkedIn page. No congratulations. No pride. Just a joke framed like ownership. I replied with a thumbs up emoji and left it there. At the time, I thought the conversation would eventually circle back to the bar incident. Maybe he would admit the joke was unnecessary. Maybe he would recognize that it crossed a line. Instead, the next few days felt like something quieter and stranger. Liam kept acting like everything was normal, but the tone underneath our conversations had shifted. "You're acting different," he said that night while we ate dinner on the couch. "Different how?" "I don't know, like you're trying to prove something now." I kept my eyes on my plate. "I'm not." "Just don't let this promotion go to your head," he added casually. I nodded. "It won't." He watched me carefully for a moment, clearly waiting for the kind of defensive reaction he usually got from me. When it didn't come, he leaned back and changed the subject. That bothered him more than an argument ever could have. Later that week, we met up with the same friend group again. Different bar. Same energy. His ex didn't come up this time, but Liam still found ways to keep me small. When someone asked about my new role at work, he interrupted halfway through my explanation. "She's only good at work stuff," he said with a laugh. "Emotionally, she's a total mess." Everyone chuckled. I smiled too. Out of habit, but something had changed. I wasn't shrinking anymore. I was observing. The pattern became impossible to ignore once I stopped reacting to it. Every compliment someone gave me, Liam softened with a joke. Every success he reframed as luck. Every serious conversation he redirected into something playful enough that if I objected, I would look overly sensitive. On the drive home that night, he sighed dramatically. "You were kind of boring tonight." I glanced over. "Yeah, you used to be more fun before you got all serious." I didn't respond. "Success doesn't make you interesting," he added. That line stayed with me, not because it hurt, because it explained everything. Liam didn't need me to fail. He needed me to stay uncertain. That night while he slept beside me, I opened the notes app on my phone, not to write feelings. Facts. What I paid for rent. What bills I covered. Trips I postponed because he wasn't financially stable yet. Conversations where I reassured him about his career. I wrote them down one by one. Then at the bottom of the list, I added a date. 6 months from that night. Not a deadline. A checkpoint. Liam still thought the joke at the bar was harmless. He had no idea something in me had already shifted. By the second week after the bar incident, the comments became more obvious. "Must be nice getting all that attention at work," he said one morning while getting ready. I didn't answer. He glanced at me through the mirror. "Just don't start thinking you're special." Silence. That bothered him. Liam was used to reactions. Arguments. Apologies. Reassurance. When none of that appeared, he escalated. One night while we were watching TV, he said casually, "You know, my ex would have handled that promotion way better than you." I muted the television. "How so?" He smirked. "She had more presence, more confidence, not this quiet brooding thing you've been doing lately." Comparison. His favorite weapon. I nodded slowly. "Sounds like you really admire her." He scoffed. "Don't be dramatic." "I'm just saying." He always framed cruelty as honesty, and honesty as a favor. A few days later, he asked if I could cover a larger share of rent again. He said he was between freelance opportunities. I agreed without discussion. Not because I felt obligated, because by that point, I was already planning my exit. Peace bought time. That night, he posted a story on social media, a photo of his drink. Caption, "Still waiting for someone who actually excites me." I saw it. He knew I would. He didn't look at me once when he climbed into bed. Lying there in the dark, I realized something important. Liam wasn't trying to leave me. He was trying to scare me. People like him don't want relationships to end. They want leverage. They want you unsure, grateful, replaceable. The promotion post hadn't impressed him. It had threatened him. And from that moment on, everything he did was about restoring the old balance. Where I laughed off disrespect and called it love. What he didn't know was that balance was already gone. I wasn't angry. I was preparing. And preparation is far more dangerous than rage. The night everything finally tipped didn't feel dramatic while it was happening. No shouting, no tears, no plates breaking against the wall. Just a quiet realization settling into place so completely that by the time dinner was over, I already knew I was leaving. Liam just didn't know it yet. We were out with another couple, friends of his I barely tolerated. The restaurant was dim and expensive in that self-conscious way some places are, all low lighting and cocktails named after dead writers, the kind of place where people mistake sarcasm for sophistication. Halfway through the meal, one of them asked how work was going. Before I could answer, Liam cut in. "She's been so full of herself lately," he said, laughing into his drink. "Ever since that promotion post. Like, relax, you're still you." They laughed. I smiled, out of muscle memory more than anything else. Then he added, Honestly, if my ex texted me right now, I'd still drop everything. At least she knew how to keep things exciting. That one landed differently. Not because it was worse than the rooftop bar, because I didn't feel the need to recover from it anymore. I excused myself and walked to the restroom. Inside, I stood in front of the mirror and looked at my own face for a long moment. No humiliation. No anger. Just certainty. That was the strangest part. I had spent so much of this relationship bracing for pain, explaining away disrespect, trying to find the version of events that made him less cruel than he sounded. But standing there under the bathroom lights, all I felt was the clean, almost peaceful awareness that I was done. When I came back to the table, Liam was already scrolling through his phone under the tablecloth, like the conversation had cost him nothing. Then his phone buzzed. He glanced down and froze for half a second. Then he laughed. "Oh my God," he said loudly. "Speak of the devil. Your company reposted the promotion again. Guess you're really milking this." He turned the screen toward the table. Everyone leaned in. "Damn," someone said. "That's huge." Liam looked at me and smirked. "I see. Guess I picked someone right after all." That was the moment. Not because of what he said. Because of what I felt. Nothing. No need to defend myself. No desire to argue. No instinct to fix the mood and make sure everyone else stayed comfortable. I set my napkin on the table and stood up. He frowned immediately. "Where are you going?" "I'm heading out," I said. "Seriously?" I looked at him. "Yes." He gave a short, disbelieving laugh. "Over a joke?" I didn't answer. I turned and walked out into the night air, and with every step away from the restaurant, I felt lighter. Not happier exactly, just less burdened. Like I had been carrying a version of myself I no longer had to drag around. He didn't text me that night. That was how I knew it got to him. Normally, if I went quiet or walked away, my phone would blow up within the hour. Accusations disguised as concern. Questions designed to pull me back into the same circular argument where he got to decide whether my reaction was valid. That night, there was nothing. Strategic silence. The kind meant to punish. I let it work. The next morning, he finally texted me like nothing had happened. "You left your charger here. Also, don't be weird about last night." No apology. No accountability. Just that familiar assumption that I would reset myself and step back into the role he preferred. I replied with 2 words. "Keep it." That was new. When I got home that evening, he was waiting on the couch with his arms crossed and the television muted. "And so," he said, "we're doing the passive-aggressive thing now?" I set my keys down. "No, we're doing the honest thing." He scoffed. "Oh, please. You walked out to make a point." I walked out because I was done being the punchline. He laughed, sharp and dismissive. "God, you're so dramatic lately. You really think you're irreplaceable now?" I didn't answer right away. I just looked at him. That unsettled him more than anything. "You know," he said, leaning forward, "confidence looks bad on you. You should be grateful I put up with your moods." That was the line. The one he crossed without realizing there was no return from it. "I am grateful," I said calmly. He blinked. "Just not for you." His mouth opened, then shut. For the first time in a long time, he had no ready comeback. Over the next few weeks, I started pulling back in ways he couldn't directly accuse me of. I stopped covering his extras, stopped adjusting my schedule around his moods, stopped explaining where I was going, when I'd be back, or why I was tired. I worked relentlessly. Early mornings, late nights, weekends. Not because I wanted to avoid him, though that helped. Because every quiet hour I gave to my work was another hour spent building something solid that had nothing to do with his approval. He noticed. "You're never around," he complained one evening. I kept packing a work bag for the next morning. "I'm working." "You don't care anymore." I zipped the bag. "I care about different things now." He stared at me. "You're acting single." He wasn't wrong. What he didn't know was that every quiet shift in my routine was moving me further beyond his reach. The first real crack showed when he realized silence wasn't pulling me back. It had been almost 3 weeks since I walked out of that restaurant. 3 weeks of me leaving early, coming home late, and refusing to perform the old version of us. I wasn't cold. That would have given him something to accuse. I was neutral, and neutrality drove him insane. One night while I was putting on my coat, he snapped. "You don't even fight anymore. Do you even care if I leave?" I paused, genuinely thinking about it. "I care," I said. "I just don't panic." That answer hit him wrong. After that, he changed tactics. Suddenly he was affectionate. Compliments he had never given before. Touches that felt rehearsed. Praise offered too late and with too much effort behind it. "You've been doing really well lately," he said one evening, tracing a finger lightly along my arm. "I always knew you had it in you." I smiled politely. "Funny, I don't remember you saying that before." His face tightened for half a second before he smoothed it out. A few days later, he tried a different angle. "You know," he said casually while scrolling his phone, "my ex liked one of my old photos today. I kept reading an email on my laptop." He waited, then looked up. "Aren't you going to ask about it?" "No," I said. That scared him. I saw it. For the first time since I had known him, uncertainty replaced his arrogance, because indifference cannot be negotiated with. You can't guilt it. You can't provoke it. You can't lure it back with just enough warmth to restart the cycle. That night, while he slept beside me, I packed a small bag and left it in the trunk of my car. Not to leave yet, just to be ready. The next morning, my company announced another internal move. A new project lead role, bigger scope, more visibility. My phone buzzed nonstop all day with congratulations. His didn't, but he saw it. He always did. When I got home, he was sitting at the table unusually quiet. "So," he said finally, "guess things are really happening for you." "Yeah," I said, "they are." He nodded slowly, then said the one thing he didn't realize was already too late. "Just don't forget who was there before all this." I looked at him and thought, I haven't forgotten. That's exactly why I'm leaving. I didn't leave that night. Not because I hesitated. Because timing matters when you're dealing with someone who needs control. I wanted the absence to land clean, not look like a reaction. Not become another argument he could twist into proof that I was emotional or unstable. Over the next month, I became a ghost in my own apartment. I moved the important things first. Documents, work files, jewelry my grandmother gave me. A few clothes at a time, chargers, medication, my passport, the pieces of a life that mattered. I signed a lease on a quiet apartment closer to work, paid the deposit, set up utilities, built an exit in silence. He sensed something changing but kept misreading it. "You're hiding things," he accused one morning. "People don't just change like this." "They do," I said, "when they're done explaining themselves." That rattled him. He started spiraling in small, messy ways after that, picking fights over dishes, over tone, over whether I was acting weird, then switching to affection the second it stopped working. One night he finally snapped. "You think you're better than me now, don't you?" I looked at him calmly. "No," I said. "I think I finally stopped believing I was worse." He went silent. A few days later, I finalized the move. The night before I left for good, he tried one last soft version of himself. We were lying in bed in the dark when he said, almost wistfully, "People don't just walk away from something real." I stared at the ceiling. "They walk away from disrespect all the time." He didn't reply. The next morning I left early. No note, no announcement. Just my keys on the counter and my life already in motion. He called later that afternoon. I didn't answer. Because some lessons don't need closure. They need space. And silence was about to teach him what no argument ever could. He didn't handle the silence well. 3 days after I moved out, my phone started lighting up. First texts, then calls from numbers I didn't recognize. The messages came in waves. "Where are you? This is childish. You don't get to disappear like this." Each one carried the same tone, the same assumption that if he pushed hard enough, I would respond the way I always had before. I didn't. A week later, the tone shifted. "I'm worried about you. We should talk like adults. I miss us." That one almost sounded sincere. Almost. If you ignored the months of comparisons, the public jokes, the casual cruelty disguised as honesty. Friends started mentioning him too. Apparently he had been telling people I had changed, that success had gone to my head, that I abandoned him right when things in my life started going well. It was a neat story, clean, convenient, and completely missing the part where he laughed about dropping me the moment his ex-girlfriend texted. Funny how memory gets selective when consequences arrive. Then came the call I didn't expect. He called from his office phone. Curiosity got the better of me. I answered. He started crying almost immediately. "I didn't think you'd actually leave," he said between uneven breaths. "You didn't even fight." For a moment I looked out the window of my new apartment at the evening skyline. The city felt different from this height. Quiet, steady, detached from the small emotional storms people create inside their own lives. "I did fight," I said calmly. "Just not for you." That changed the tone instantly. "So what?" he snapped. "You think you're better than me now? You think that promotion makes you untouchable?" "No," I said. "I think it showed me what I was tolerating." He went quiet for a moment. Then his voice softened again, trying another angle. "If my ex texted me now, I wouldn't answer, I swear." I almost laughed. "That wasn't the problem," I said. "What do you mean?" "The problem was you wanted me to hear it." Silence followed. Then the bargaining started. Promises he would change. claims that the jokes were harmless, explanations that everyone talks like that sometimes, the same arguments that always appeared once the balance of control started slipping away. I listened. And when he finished, I answered honestly. I believe you could change, I said. I just don't need to stay to see it. He hung up without saying goodbye. That was the last real conversation we had. After that, the silence wasn't punishment anymore. It was protection. 2 months later, I saw him again. It wasn't planned. Those things rarely are. I was at a small industry networking event, the kind with quiet music and careful conversations about work that always sound more casual than they actually are. I was there with someone new. His name was Marcus Hale. He worked in urban development, calm, thoughtful, the kind of man who listened before speaking and never once made me feel like I needed to shrink in order to keep the peace. We had been seeing each other for a few weeks by then. Nothing dramatic, no declarations, just steady interest and the refreshing absence of emotional games. I saw Liam across the room before he saw me. When he finally noticed, his posture stiffened immediately. His eyes flicked from me to Marcus and back again, calculating in the way he always did when he felt like the situation was slipping beyond his control. He walked over slowly. "Well," he said with a forced laugh, "guess everything worked out for you." "Yeah," I said. "It did." He nodded, swallowing something that looked suspiciously like pride. "I didn't think you'd actually leave like that, without saying anything." I considered that for a moment. "I said everything I needed to," I replied, "just not out loud." He looked down briefly. For the first time since I had known him, there was no clever response waiting behind his eyes. No joke, no deflection, just a quiet, uncomfortable recognition that the version of me he had relied on was gone. "I didn't think silence would hurt more than yelling," he admitted. "It usually does," I said. A long pause followed. Then he asked the question I knew would come eventually. "Do you ever miss me?" I answered honestly. "I miss who I was before I learned better." He nodded once, and that was the end of it. No dramatic exit, no final argument. He stepped back and walked away quietly. Marcus squeezed my hand gently and asked if I was okay. I was. Because some people only understand your value after you stop explaining it to them. And sometimes the strongest response isn't revenge, anger, or closure. It's building a life so steady and complete that the person who once tried to make you feel replaceable can only watch from the outside, in silence.